Want more positivity in your life? Subscribe, turn on notifications, follow us, and all that techie stuff. We'd love to hear from you. Comment, share, or give us a thumbs up. We are grateful to have you hanging out with us at Matt Logan Speaks.
Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Thought and Perspective. When I had heard this person's story, I kind of started tearing it apart into a big puzzle, right? And I was very interested in how this person wrote things. She was a writer beforehand, but then cancer struck. And I wanted to get your perspective on how therapy was for you. And I'm not going to even try to pronounce your last name, just FYI. But ladies and gentlemen, help me welcome Nicole.
Nicole Czarnomski.
See, I'm not going to even try. I'm not going to try.
It's okay.
I just fail.
Yes, you have no idea how many times I was at Mayo Clinic and people butchered my last name.
Yeah, I get it. Totally. I mean, I was very interested. You wrote a book, but you were a writer beforehand. So tell us a little bit about that. But the therapy piece of it was very, very powerful. And we're in society right now that we need therapy, all of us.
Absolutely.
And so I really want to unpack that.
Sure. I started out writing in 2011. I guess I should say I got published in 2011. I've been writing my whole life. I've kept a journal for decades. It's always been therapy for me to write. And the more I wrote, the more I wanted to start sharing things with people. But I was a little nervous to share a lot of the deep, dark thoughts that were going into the journal. So I started researching, how to write magazine articles. And I thought if I could start pitching things to editors, then I could actually write something that I could share with people. So Ellie Starks was the first editor that invited me to be a part of Rochester Women. She was the editor at the time, and it was in 2011.
What was the article?
I wrote a piece for the home construction or home improvement part, and I wrote about a couple's deck. They replaced their deck, and so I got to write about that. It was really interesting. And it kind of... I started out college and I was studying interior design. So it was kind of like just this little, it was kind of fun to go back and go into my interior design mode. But
so you sort of understood how it worked and everything.
I did.
It wasn't something that they just threw you to the wolves, so to
No.
Like this is a little familiar. When did cancer kind of happen, and when did you think you wanted to write a book to help people through that cancer that you had experienced and things like that?
I was diagnosed with cancer in 2017 in July. It was the day before my 8th wedding anniversary. I knew almost immediately that I wanted to write a book. Writing a book was a goal that I had wanted for a long time. I just didn't know what the topic was. And when that happened, I knew that writing was going to save me.
And you released the book during COVID.
I did.
Yeah.
I did.
Which is brave in itself because, I mean, a lot of different publishing companies with movies and any kind of that needs a public event to promote it have just stopped. Like they just have backed off, which tells me you wanted to do it for a purpose of helping people. Right, and that's extremely powerful.
I'm so glad that that's what you see, because that's exactly what I did. It was ready. I mean, I was done with it. I needed to put it out there exactly for that purpose, to help people. That's the entire reason for the book.
Yeah. It's because you have a full-time job. It's not about that. Trying to make a living at it and things, because you did release it during COVID. But it's so thinking about it in seeing different people I've experienced with tragedy, they've needed some type of therapy, right? And everybody's different. Why was writing, even you were a writer, why was writing the book so therapeutic for you?
It helped process a lot of really difficult decisions that I was having to make. At first, I just felt like they're wrong. The doctors have no idea what they're talking about. How could this possibly be happening to me? I'm incredibly healthy. I exercise. I eat well. I couldn't believe that this was happening to me. So when I guess I started feeling like, okay, a few days go by, this is actually happening and you need to deal with this because they're asking you to make decisions that are going to change the rest of your life. Mm-hmm. So I went to my journal and I started writing those things. And after a while, I knew that this story needed to be told. It was going to help other people process all those decisions that they were going to have to make.
And maybe not even the decisions specifically related to cancer, but decisions on how to get through just difficult things in life. Mm-hmm. Difficult
adversity.
Decisions. Adversity, good.
Yes.
Yeah,
yes.
For sure.
Exactly.
We all face it.
Mm-hmm.
We talked about that off camera, and some people think that, well, my level of adversity is bigger and deeper and thicker than someone else's, and I think that's a difficult place to stay in your mind. I would rather see people get out of that and say, hey, wait a minute, this is what I had to suffer through and the adversity that I've dealt with. Now, what can I do and with this to help someone else, even though it might not seem like it's as deep and thick. Mm-hmm.
I think there's a lot of hope in the book as well. I have the best support system of anyone on the planet, hands down. I had a group.
Except for if you asked me that question, then I would disagree because I do.
Okay.
But you see what I'm saying. I'm just teasing you.
A group of ladies I call my fitness friends were there at every turn. My husband, my family, they just created these little pockets of happiness for me that also kind of helped with that process too. And I could put that in the book. One of my favorite experiences through cancer was my haircut party, I guess, or my head shaving party.
Okay.
My husband and all of my friends were at the salon, and they all had a brief moment to take the buzzer and just shave my head.
Yeah.
So it was a lot of fun, and I left there laughing and feeling good about being bald.
Yeah. That was the decision that was made. Mm-hmm. And that's good that you can make the best of it, for sure.
I could share that experience with people.
Yeah.
And we had a good time. It was just joyous. At one point I was almost crying because I was having such a good time. And I just felt so loved in that moment. And I knew I was going to be just fine.
Nice. How long of a process was it for you from when you found out to remission?
9 months. I had a double mastectomy with reconstructive surgery. I had, 4 months of chemotherapy and 25 radiation treatments, which they're every day. So it took about a month.
Okay.
And now, while I'm still 3 years out from the initial surgery, I take a pill called tamoxifen to kind of keep that cancer at bay. My cancer was hormone-based, so kind of inhibits the hormones from creating cancer again, we hope. So.
Sure. Mm-hmm. And how long have you been in remission?
I finished treatments in April of 2018. So I guess you can say that. I just had my 3-year checkup, and they released me to go see the doctor every year now, which I was going every 6 months, and that was almost terrifying.
Okay.
But, as every doctor says, you can always come back and see me if you feel like there's a problem.
Yeah, perfect. What's the funniest story in the book?
Oh, Lord. My husband's going to kill me.
Okay.
So we were getting ready to go to one of my chemo treatments, and my husband wanted Chipotle.
Okay.
So we stop and eat Chipotle. Ironically, I I had a pretty good appetite through chemo. Not many people do. So we stopped and we had lunch, and then we went to my chemo treatment. And my husband farted half the time we were there. And I kept getting so embarrassed because I was worried they were going to come in and think it was me or something.
Okay. So that's in the book.
Yes, it is.
That's good. Did he proofread the book? Or?
He actually, yes, right before it was published, he read it, and he was actually kind of mortified.
Was he? Okay.
Why would you put this in there?
Yeah. Well, that's real life, right?
It is.
Yeah. I mean, in Chipotle, I mean, really? Come on. That's going to happen.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's really good. Did you get into any places that you were really concerned or worried, and that some of the writing kind of helped pull you through that from a mental standpoint? And
Wow, that's a great question. I think some of those really dark times when I looked at myself in the mirror and I was completely bald, and I had reconstructed breasts with these incisions from armpit to sternum that I didn't know who I was looking at sometimes. And I would go back and think, I still can't believe this is happening to me. I'm that healthy person. And being able to just sit down and process that this is the new you, and this is the way it's going to be forever. You have to be okay with this. And I just kept writing. I just wrote my way through it.
what I hear you say is that maybe that was a transition of where you took a lot of identity in yourself and your physical appearance, and that transferred over to understanding that really isn't who you are. Did I take that the right way?
You actually nailed it.
Okay.
Physical appearance is very important to me. I feel, even in my job, my full-time job, I'm a marketing director at a senior living community. I think dressing professionally and having a professional appearance shows respect for these seniors who have worked so hard their entire life, and they're now spending their hard-earned, saved money to live in a place like Shorewood. So in that respect, yeah, appearance is a lot to me. And when I went into that plastic surgeon's office for the first time, I said, you better make me look exactly the same on the outside. I don't want anything to change. And he was like, okay, I can make that happen. Like it was some grandiose request or something I was thinking, and he's like, a piece of cake, I'll take care of you.
Yeah.
So
that's pretty rewarding then for you, wasn't it? That was a good place to be at. Yeah. And did you you live in this area, which is the area of the Mayo Clinic? Is that where you were for everything, or what was that experience like?
Sure. I actually started off at Olmsted. I had my primary there, and when I went to Olmsted, I had some questions based on some research that I had been doing. I had been talking to some other people, and they were kind of questioning the decisions that I had to make based on what the doctors were giving me at Olmsted. And someone suggested that maybe I just go get a second opinion at Mayo. In order to do that, I was already, I think, 3 weeks into this. I'd had multiple biopsies, tons of appointments. I had missed a lot of work. I was stressed out. I just wanted the cancer out of my system. And Mayo Clinic said, well, you have to meet with the nurse's assistant, and then the nurse, and then a doctor. And then you have to have another biopsy so we can see what's happening. We want to get a mammogram. All of these things I was going to have to start all over, and I was devastated enough. I didn't need more doctors, more nurses poking and prodding at me, telling me, here, now you need to make these decisions. So I stayed with Olmsted for my surgery. They don't do chemotherapy and radiation, so then I had to transition over to Mayo Clinic. Every single doctor that I had, I have the utmost respect for. I thank all of them for giving me the life that I have now. It wasn't the path I would have chosen, but it ended up being the best path for me.
Nice. We've talked about now some of the things that are a little bit of the negative and touched on the therapy side of it in a fun story, but let's really talk about how important it is. I do kind of a thing on and talk about there's a problem plus a reaction equals disaster. There's a problem plus thought equals solutions, right? And so if we react to problems, it's a disaster every time. If we think through a problem, we're going to come up with all kinds of solutions, right? So the problems to me are that they exist. So what? You know, here's some solutions. Here's how we can make it better. Here's how we can help somebody, whatever else. Let's talk about some of that. Let's talk about those solutions and things that was part of your journey that will help other people. Why did you were a writer and that seems natural, but why did you decide to go so far as taking some of that stuff out of your journal that was that dark and allow it to be seen publicly? Because that's what this is.
People need to see that. They need to
Why?
see that journey isn't on the outside. I was all smiles. I was happy. I was okay. I was strong. I was courageous. I was surviving this. And I felt like people needed to see that other side to know that I was working really, really hard to keep that smile on my face. It wasn't always easy, but I wanted people to know that even though there's tragedy, there's adversity, there's pain, you can make the best of it. I am now the happiest I've ever been in my life, and I think I'm a lot of fun to be around. Before I took myself way too seriously, and now if I can make somebody laugh, I'm just a practical joker now. It's so much fun. Anybody that knew me before would never, ever imagine that I took myself too seriously, ever.
Did you ever think of not doing anything as far as therapeutic for you mentally? Was there ever a place that you're like, I'm just going to try to get through this and I'm not going to do anything that's therapy. I'm going to just go through the physical motion. Was there ever a place?
No, I always needed some outlet. I did a lot of writing, but I also took up yoga, which I thought, honestly, I hated yoga before cancer. I started meditating, which again, laying on the floor or sitting on a chair, closing my eyes, thinking about nothing, that's impossible. I love it now. It's so quieting. It just gets you to this place of calm. So there was multiple ways that I was always trying to find some sort of therapy to thrive.
Someone loses a parent or in my case, like a child unexpectedly, just way too young. What does writing do from the standpoint of a writer? What does that do? Your experience is cancer.
Sure.
We understand that, but like, how can that translate?
The process for me just helps me see those feelings on paper and let them go. I don't have to harbor those feelings anymore when I get them out. They may come back, but I can write about them again in order to get over that hurdle again.
kind of move from one place to the next. So would you suggest, even if you're not a writer, to write some of that stuff down, or what would be that outlet as you worded it?
Absolutely. No, writing, there are so many ways that you can journal. You can sum all of your feelings up in one sentence. You can use a journal prompt, whether it's self-discovery or gratitude or anxiety. You can kind of create that mind mapping where you've got this problem and you come up with 3 to 4 different solutions. Writing it down just makes it easier for me to see what's going on, see what the problem is, to see why I'm hurting.
So you kind of get some of that out there. Let's call it catastrophizing, right? A lot of times we allow things to build up in our mind and then we catastrophize it. Does that help that process? Is that kind of what you're saying? That it puts it down there and it puts it more into reality? Like, this is kind of bad. We need to work on that as far as from a mental aspect. I'm blowing this up way out of proportion here. And because it's now on paper and in front of me that we can kind of digest that. Is that
digestion? That's a great word.
Yeah.
Yes.
Because I think
digesting those thoughts.
Yeah, because I think so often that if we don't get them out, I hate to write from the aspect of putting it in order. In other words, like, if I have to write a speech, I write it as I think of it. This isn't something that I chose to do, so I do it according to my style. And so what that means is I'll have a thought, and I might write down a few paragraphs or whatever, whereas a lot of people will do the outline and things like that, and then kind of go and research off of that. But I try to form my entire thought first.
Sure.
Write that down as far as for that section, and then, oh yeah, we should put that thought into here for the speech, and then we should move this one. You know what I mean? So putting things down on paper does help me digest those things in those places. So I guess what I'm saying is and I think we're on the same page, no pun intended. But writing that down allows us to put that in that order, right? And it doesn't allow it to take up negative space.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I'm actually one of those writers. We're called the pantsers.
Okay.
We write by the seat of our pants.
Ah.
I can sit down.
So you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, I totally
Okay.
do. I sit down and I just write.
Yeah.
And then I go back and I can kind of process it and say, when I'm writing in my journal, it doesn't matter. I can fly by the seat of my pants all day long. But then when you start writing a book, you kind of have to take those chunks and move them around and massage them and make them readable.
Yeah, and when you write it in a journal, you don't have to have an editor, right?
That's the best part.
Yeah. What other advice, do you have on some of this? I don't want to steal the stage from you. I've sort of said some things that has helped me, but
Sure. Writing, also, I'm a huge reader. I read all the time. My favorite things to read are psychological thrillers, but I think when you're writing a memoir, you need to read memoirs. And I did. I read tons of them in the writing process. One of my favorite, if you recall, Wild by Cheryl Strayed.
I recognize the name.
Yeah, she hiked the Pacific Crest Trail.
Oh, okay, sure.
So fantastic book. I read a memoir by another breast cancer survivor. Let me get this off my chest. I can't think of who the author is. Just reading other people's stories, I guess, kind of helps you form thoughts and kind of the overall organization of the book too. I think just in the nature of my journey, it was easy for me to organize all the thoughts because it was diagnosis, surgery, chemo, radiation, the aftermath. I also think reading about writing. I read Bird by Bird is my favorite book. It's by Anne Lamott. And one of the sayings in there is, when you're on a car trip at night, you can only see as far as your headlights. Mm-hmm. But with all those small sections, you're going to get to your destination. Mm. So if you can write in those small chunks, then you'll eventually... You'll don't think about writing an entire book, because that can be overwhelming and exhausting to even think about. But if you just go mile by mile, then you can start forming the entire book.
You have to. So Stephen Covey, we talked about off camera. Mm-hmm. Stephen Covey said that I'm paraphrasing, but begin with the end in mind, right? I don't know if you remember that, mm-hmm. But so begin with the end in mind. When you wrote this, did you have to think about that? Because the way you're describing it was like the ending didn't really matter, just those sections, right? Mm-hmm. But don't you have to have an idea where that ending is? Because it was a journaling process to start, it was a little harder to see the end, because I didn't know what was going to happen at the end. What if I would have gotten through the end of the book or through the end of the journey and the cancer wasn't gone? Mm-hmm. There would have been an incredibly different outlook. At the end of my journey, I was exercising and pushing too hard and herniated a disc. Ooh. I had no idea something like that was going to happen. So that changed the course of what I was writing about, and I felt it was very important for the book to have that in there, because it was directly related to me trying to run a 5K the same year I finished cancer treatments. Wow. And that was the worst thing I could have done to myself. Sure. So I think the end for me, the end result was always, I want to inspire and help and just make sure that people understood that it doesn't matter what you're going through, you can do this. Yeah. Lean on people when you have to. Find ways that you can find, some sort of way to relax and to treat yourself well and to have that self-care, and not to get caught up in all the negativity, because there's a lot of really dark places you can go when you're in the midst of adversity. So I think always the end result for me was to just help people. So I'm not sure that I had an end in mind, because it was always changing. The end. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So the end was that helping people piece. Mm-hmm. The story part of it probably could unfold however it needed to, yes. But that end, that goal, was to help the people mm-hmm. that would be in similar situations. And it sounds like even other situations that it probably has a lot of value. Mm-hmm. It's not just cancer. Right. Yeah. I
think it's good for the supporters of that person that's going through adversity. I mentioned getting my head shaved. Yeah. What a great way to celebrate with somebody. I mean, I feel like someone else could take that and help their friend or family member or something. I was given postcards in the mail. People dropped off food. Just all these fun little tips and tricks that, hey, this is a great way to support your friend or family member that's going through cancer. So
awesome. Are you gonna do a book launch party once it's kind of allowed? Or
Yes, I absolutely am.
is that in the works yet? Or
No, I'm not sure when I want to do that. I want to make it so that it's comfortable and people can maybe not have to wear masks.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I launched the book in April 2020 this year. So maybe I should look forward to 2021.
Yeah, public events are hard, and I had to cancel a lot. So I get that's very devastating for someone in your position to try and launch a book. Mm-hmm. It's a tough thing to do because there's nothing better than a public event for anything.
I know.
It doesn't matter. Baby showers or weddings or you know what I mean.
Yeah.
You have to have them for all those things.
I never thought COVID would last this long. So I was still calling places, early March, I guess early to mid-March, and I was calling places to see, what space rented for, appetizers, drinks, all the big party stuff. Mm-hmm. And it never came to fruition. So hopefully soon I'll be able to do something like that. I would love to do a book signing and a book reading. I grew up in Missouri, and so I'd like to go back home, so to speak, and have a book signing there to visit old friends and family members. So
yeah, excellent. What can we do to support you? How do we find you? Where can we get the book? Sure.
The book is on Amazon. I self-published.
Okay.
The book is How Cancer Cured My Broken Soul. I also have it on my website, The Whispering Pen. You can use PayPal to purchase the book, and I'll ship it out to you. You can find me on Instagram and Facebook. So.
Were you a social media person before this?
Not as much. Honestly, going through treatments, I found it was almost kind of selfish because I would post pictures of myself going through chemo. I was actually in the room, and it was so nice to hear from so many people,
cheerleading.
Yeah, absolutely. It was great. And after that, I started to enjoy social media a bit more and connecting with people. And now I'm on it all the time.
Are you?
I'm always posting stuff. This month especially, it's Breast Cancer Awareness Month. So I've posted lots of quotes and things, and will be for the next several weeks. So,
any final words of wisdom to put you on the spot?
I don't know about words of wisdom, but I highly recommend journaling. And if you ever need some help journaling, I am more than happy to give you prompts, show you different ways to journal. It's so much fun. It's so cathartic. It is not a painful process. I know I have so many friends that don't like to write, and I bet you I could give you one technique that you would walk away and say, well, I could do this. This is actually fun.
Nice. Nicole, thank you.
Oh, thank you.
Sure appreciate you being here. And I've learned a lot. I just appreciate that your end goal was to help people, because that's really what I've tried to do for the last 8 years.
Yeah.
So certainly appreciate that.
Thank you.
Yeah, we'll
Thank
see you
you for
next
having
time.
me, Matt.
You're welcome.